Hey friends, it's Kelly and welcome to my new podcast, Femme Fatale After Dark, the podcast where we talk about everything and anything. We're going to be talking about gear, guns, BBs, burnout, epic gameplay, mental health, great events and everything in between. So join me after dark and let's get into it. So if we're not already acquainted, hi, my name is Kelly, also known as Femme Fatale Airsoft online, and I have been playing Airsoft since 2014 regularly, and I've been self-employed in the Airsoft industry since 2017. It's been a crazy ride and I've got a lot of stories, I've got a lot of tea, and I would love to tell them to you. So first, let's talk about how I discovered Airsoft. So Airsoft has been in my life one way or another ever since I was pretty much a teenager. So if I think about my past relationships, every single one of my ex-boyfriends has played Airsoft. Every single one of them. Even my first boyfriend when I was 15. So I've always been aware of Airsoft, but it wasn't until 2012 that I decided to play Airsoft for the first time. So my friend Natasha, we were best friends in school, her boyfriend Simon played Airsoft and he wanted her to give it a try and thought this would be a really nice birthday outing. Tasha asked me if I wanted to go as well, and I did, and honestly, I'm not going to get into it, but it was the worst Airsoft game I've ever fucking been to. And I was like, do you know what, if this is what it's like, fuck this, I don't want any part in it. Do you know what I mean? I don't want any part in it. So until like maybe 2 years later, 2014, my partner at the time asked me if I wanted to go play Airsoft, and I was like, absolutely fucking not. Absolutely not. All my friends were going, like my friendship group at the time were all going, so I was like, okay, maybe I've got to think about it. And I said to him, like, if you buy me the G&G Femme Fatale, their pink guns, I'll put a picture of it here, if you buy me one of those, I will absolutely go, because I didn't expect him to do that. I did not expect him to. Sorry, a bird jumped on the roof of my workshop, which is where my filming background is, and scared the living shit out of me. So where was I? Yeah. So I said to him, if you buy me the FF26, then I will absolutely come to Airsoft, because I didn't expect him to do it. I thought I'd fucking finessed that. I genuinely thought I had. And it turns out a week later, a package arrived from 01, when 01 were the main dealers for G&G in the UK. And it turned up and I was like, fuck, fuck. I've now got to play Airsoft. But this day was completely different. It was August, so it was nice and warm. It wasn't like pissing down rain, so the ground was nice and dry. Now, one thing you will learn from this series, and you may already know if you follow me online for a long time, I'm a fair weather airsofter. I don't want to be out in the rain. You can keep your "it ain't training if it ain't raining." I don't give a fuck. I do not want to be out in the rain. I don't want to be out in the cold. I'm built for comfort, not speed. Okay, that is who I am. But we went and it was a fantastic day. Now, it was a private game day, so obviously it was just our friends, and that was really, really lovely. And I think it was the introduction to Airsoft that I actually needed, because an introduction to Airsoft where it's shit weather, you're not comfortable, you're around a bunch of strangers, and in that time, because it was like 10, 15 years ago, whatever, there was a lot of people that were quite unsavoury, is the word I would use for it, and it just wasn't a pleasant experience. But this one was completely different, and I thought, hey, if this is what, this is like, I would love to play more. I would love to. So I started researching Airsoft, and I found more sites, and that's when I found my absolute jam, because my absolute jam is CQB. And we found a CQB site in Derby. It was the same brand of Airsoft site, and I fucking loved it. We played every single weekend. I loved the adrenaline. It was an old office block, and it was so awful to fight around. I'm just like, oh, it was so good. It was really, really good. It was a shame about the owners, but we hear that a lot in Airsoft, right? We hear that a lot in Airsoft. But it was fucking fantastic. And I thought, if this is what Airsoft is, I would like to do more of it. And then I think it was about a month later, I got made redundant from my graduate job. I have a degree in fashion and textiles, and I was a fashion buyer for a company in Derby. A couple weeks after that, I had a car accident, and that car accident left me unable to work for a little bit. So I didn't have any income, and I also didn't have anything to do really. So I just started consuming Airsoft content, like as much as I could actually get. So I started watching Unicorn Leah, Airsoft Hasmin, Ella Relentless, and P90 Girl, all the women that were like really pushing it forward in the States. And I was like, hey, so if this, if there are women in the States doing this, why couldn't I do it for the UK? That was my thought process at the time. I didn't like making videos. It is now my primary form of content, but it wasn't in the very beginning. In the very beginning, it was actually the blog. and it's still up now. We do have a new website, which is really exciting. I haven't updated the blog in a long time, and I will talk more about that in episode 2. I started a blog, and I started it with the very few pieces of kit that I had. I had some old army surplus trousers and top, and then a really shitty Taiwan gun plate carrier, right? And I just started creating content on things that I would like to see, like, as a woman, does this plate carrier fit me? What was this site like to visit? Did I enjoy it as like a relatively new player? And all these other things. And I started creating the content that I wanted, because I believe that if you want something, then you should be the one to create it if it doesn't exist. That's how all my businesses have ever worked. If I want something and I can't find it, I make it myself. And I think that's the best way to be. You be the change you want to see, sort of deal. But I started the blog and I started Instagram at the same time. Everything was pink. Everything was pink. It kind of still is. Pink isn't my favourite colour, actually. My favourite colour is purple, but it's a fucking sick colour, so. But yeah, I had a great time writing these blogs, and I love taking pictures. I look back at some of the pictures, I'll post them up, and they were fucking dire. They were awful. Oh my God. But I was having so much fun. And then companies started to notice my work online, which was really cool. The very first company to ever send me anything was Nuprol, actually. Danny from Nuprol got in touch with me and was like, hey, we really like the blog you did on this. Would you like to review this bump helmet that we've got? And it was pink. It was the same colour as my gun. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I would love to. And then it just snowballed from there. It just absolutely snowballed. I eventually got a new job. I started working at Tesco, and I started working on the tills, and that was dog shit. So I don't know if I've ever told you like this, but I have worked for Tesco 3 times, and I'm always surprised that they ended up taking me back so many times, if I'm totally honest, because I was a terrible employee for them. I'm perfectly happy to admit that. And I do appreciate them offering me a place on the management training programme the day I handed my notice in. And I handed my notice in, full enough, because they refused to give me the Friday off so I could go to IWA in Germany the first year I wanted to go. And I was just like, you know what, get fucked. One thing you will learn about me very quickly is I will make it happen. I don't care what I gotta do, I'll make it happen, my friends. But yeah, so I started at that Tesco on tills, and it was fucking awful. I can't tell you the amount of people that screamed at me for shit that was definitely their fault. The customer is always wrong, and I will stand 10 toes down on that fucking shit every day. But I worked there, and then I went into .com, which is basically the little shopping trolleys that you go around and you collect people's orders. That was pretty dope, I won't lie. I did do like 40,000 steps a day, so it was like very hard on my feet. And then I eventually went into van driving. That was a big fucking sleigh. I didn't have a manager breathing down my back every 5 fucking minutes to do something else when I was already doing 10 million fucking things, you know what I mean? I got to ride around my little van, drop my things, drop my shit off, and then I just sit on my phone. Am I a lazy queen? Maybe, sometimes, maybe, unsure. Because you need to work smarter, not harder, you know? But I took every hour I could at this Tesco, and the extra wages that I was earning, like, that just went straight into Airsoft. Went straight into the blog, buying more kit, go into more games. Like, I can't tell you how many times I would finish at 11 AM on a Saturday after being up since like maybe 3 o'clock, and I'd drive straight down south to see my friends. We'd play Airsoft the whole fucking weekend. I'd come back on Monday to start work on Tuesday. I'd be absolutely fucking shattered. I would. But it was so worth it because I had such a good time. And eventually I did leave Tesco because they would not give me that day off at IWA. I know I saw in 2015, I saw everyone going to EWO, and I was like, I want to fucking do that. I want to do that. Next year I'm going. Next year I am going. And then I'll think about SHOT Show. And then the next year I applied, got in, which was fucking amazing. And then they wouldn't give me that day off, so I quit my job. This is the second time I've quit a job because I was like, you know what, I don't want to fucking do this anymore. The second time I quit my job for Airsoft was when I quit that job. I went to a fencing company, which was also awful. Then I went to a vaping magazine in Derby, and I did not enjoy working for them at all. I was a social media person for them. Didn't enjoy it at all. It was totally shit. And that's actually the only full-time job I've ever worked. And I know that sounds fucking crazy. I know that sounds crazy. But up until that point, I'd only been able to get part-time jobs. So this was my first dip into 9 to 5, and I absolutely hated it. Being out of the house that long, no, I have so much respect for people who work full-time corporate jobs. I don't know how you get out of the house and stay out of the house for that long, every single day. Kudos to you, because I couldn't fucking do it. But I left there, and it was because I was sat in a room basically building someone else's social media for them rather than doing it for my own. And I was like, why the fuck am I working 8 hours a day to make this person's social media work for them and gain them more followers and more sales when I could be doing the same for me? And I quit my job. I came home, I was really, really proud of myself. I told my dad, and my dad was fucking fuming. He was raging. I've never seen him that mad or disappointed or upset. Like 3 years later, he was my biggest fan. He was so proud. He was like, oh, so my daughter does airsoft. She shoots men in the bum all day, which was really, really cute. My dad was always my biggest fan. I can't ever thank him enough for that. Do you know what I mean? So that is how I started playing airsoft, and that is how I became a full-time airsoft content creator. Like, if you want to use the word influencer, you could use that, but I know that has like quite negative connotations. People don't like the word influencer because they think all influencers are fucking arseholes, and for the most part, I would agree. I would agree, because I've met some lunatics, and I've also met some what I would say narcissists. Absolutely, absolute narcissists. What were the challenges though for starting Femme Fatale? So at this point, I appreciate this story's been a bit disjointed. I appreciate it. It would not get a 5-star on like Fable or Goodreads for cohesiveness. It absolutely wouldn't. But genuinely, one of the biggest struggles I think for me was learning how to run a business. I had no idea how to do that. Like, I'd always been employed in, part-time jobs, and my 2 weeks into 9 to 5. So I had never run a business before, and it is a sharp learning curve if you don't know how to do it. But I was very, very fortunate because one of my friends, he worked for a company at the time. It was called Pop-Up Business School. It's now called the Rebel School, and they do free online and in-person business courses that teach you how to start a business with no capital and no loans. Which actually I went to the 2-week one in person in Reading, and bear in mind I live in Derby, so this was a trek, but I went to that, and 2 weeks later I'd got 2 brand deals, which was fucking awesome. It made me think, you know what, I can do this. I really, really can do this. And it was the boot I needed. And then 6 weeks later, I went to the States for, I think it was 10 weeks, spent time with Leah and Jet. And that was a crazy experience. I cannot wait to talk about my experiences in America, because as a British person who had never travelled long haul on their own before, had never travelled really alone on their own like that, that was crazy. Flying halfway across the world to meet people that you'd only spoken to on the internet was not my, sorry, I thought I had a spider in my hair. It was not my greatest choice. It was not my smartest choice, but it was one of the best things I ever did, because I've got one of my best friends, and I met some really cool people, and I've done really, really cool things in the States, and I'm really grateful for those opportunities. But that was, I think, not knowing how to build a business was a really big thing for me. I needed to learn like step by step by step by step. So I've built this business from the ground up on my own, working my way through hurdles, like learning how to make a media pack, learning how to read analytics, learning how to code, like the fuck? Like, I'm just a girl, I'm just a girl. But it was fantastic. And I think the only other real challenge I faced in making Femme Fatale what it is today is actually people underestimating me. Now, being underestimated is the most powerful place that I believe you can be, because people don't generally, they don't expect anything from you. So then you can just come over and just kick them in the fucking arse, you know what I mean? You just come in and take all their shit. But yeah, I think that's the other thing. People underestimating me, and people just not taking me seriously, actually. That was a big thing for the first few years, and I feel like I did a lot of things, I did a lot of fucking milsims that I did not want to do, just to prove that I could do it. To people who didn't respect me, didn't like me, they didn't like me or respect me after I did it. In fact, it was probably worse after I did it, because I turned up, fucking shot them. I remember I went to one event, I went to the Gloucester Airsoft show thing. I went in Wales to do a milsim over there, like a 36-hour event or whatever it was. Turned up, got shot to fuck, and that was fine. I don't mind going to an airsoft game and getting shot. I'm not one of those people. I am paying to be shot at and to shoot other people. So, I got shot to fuck, and it was totally fine. And then I shot one of the girls because she was just stood in the fucking open, cover, who is she, right? And then she started this whole fucking thing online afterwards, being like, I can't believe you fucking cheated. And I was like, girl, get a fucking grip of yourself. She didn't like me before that. She didn't respect me. She didn't like me or respect me afterwards. So, I feel like we do a lot of things, or I have done a lot of things, sorry, that I'm like, I want people to know I can do it. And I can do it, and the only thing that really matters is that I know I can do it, you know what I mean? But yeah, I think those are the main problems that I've faced in airsoft, the main challenges, not problems, challenges. If we reframe those challenges, they seem more manageable. So yeah, so what you can expect from this podcast is, I'm sorry that I've rattled on for so long, but I just wanted to introduce myself to any new listeners, any new followers, because, you know, it's good to know who you're, you know, listening to chat shit for like half an hour on the internet, isn't it? So from this podcast, you can expect, so we're going to be talking a lot about being a creator, like how to get into content creation, because I know that's a big thing that people want to know about. Like, I'm happy to tell people about that. You know, we're going to go through travel stories, travel mishaps, because a lot of cracked out shit has happened. Okay. You know, we're going to talk about what happened during COVID, things like that. You know, great brands that I've worked with. I'd like to eventually invite like brands on so we can chat about things that are really important to you. Like, I know I saw the Crytek announcement the other day and I'm excited. I want to know what it is. And I would like to be, this is where I would like people to share those sorts of things. I would like to be like, yeah, we'll come on and we'll let other people know, you know. So that would be really, really cool. So that is what you can expect from this podcast. And I just wanted to do a really, really cool follower segment, actually, if that's okay with everybody. So I asked the other day in my FF Fam channel on Instagram and on my Instagram stories how people know me, like how they first found my account, because I get really interested in things like the metrics. And a lot of it was that they had found me from Unicorn Leah's channels when I first went over in 2017. But I would like to read some for you. So one that caught my eye was from Connor, and it said the Void Gaming event. Now, the Void Gaming event was something that Pop-Up Business School did, and I think it was 2019, and they had me on as a speaker for basically becoming a content creator. And I gave a talk to, I think, about like 70 to 100 young people who eventually wanted to be YouTubers and stuff like that. So that was a really cool experience. We had a lot of VR reality games there. It was a really cool event and I enjoyed it a lot. So another one is from _aftermight, and it says, on Instagram but then in person very shortly after, you were hungover at Dirty Dog Airsoft. So the second time I played at Dirty Dog Airsoft, I was hanging out of my arse. I had gone the day before to a bottomless brunch with my friend Courtside Peach, and I was a hungover queen. So if you saw me that day, no, you fucking didn't. I got one from my friend Nick, who is 22 Handman on 22 Handman. I assume he's real fucking tall. I will put a picture of us here, which he sent me the other day in relation to this. Shot me in the ass at the billet, first talked at Breakpoint. Breakpoint was the event where I got chucked in the van. And if you watch the video, you'll know what I mean. We can talk about that later. So we've got one from Stuart, and in person, the first time I spoke to you was you saying sorry to me after you had shot me in the nuts. I tend to panic quite a lot when I'm playing airsoft. So I have shot a few men in the nether regions because I've obviously meant to shoot them in the chest, you know, like if you've got a full body on shot, I'm going to shoot that. But sometimes I'm like, whoa! And then you end up getting shot in the nuts first, and I can only apologise for that. I'm so sorry. And then, so I've got one from BZ Tactical that says, I think my colleague Joe said something that pissed you off, and then we became buds. I don't know. I love that. Although, I don't think Joe would ever say anything to piss me off. Joe's super nice. Joe is super nice. You showed up, this is from my friend Mike. You showed up in America one day and I was like, you're cool. I did literally just pop up in America, to be fair. I did literally just pop up. And I was like, hello. I will put a picture here of when I talked about this on my Instagram the other day. I think it was Flashpoint Astana. I was fucking done. I'd been out in the fucking sticks for so long. I was like, I need to be in a bed. I need to be comfortable. And there's a picture of us all just sat at the end of the game, just like ready to go home. Oh no. So there's another one, and this is in the FFM chat. And it's basically someone saying that they met me at the NAF in 2019, and my friends offered them a beer and somewhere to stay because they came on their own from Germany, and I love that. I feel like we've always done that. We've always made sure everyone feels super welcome. Like, obviously, if you're ever on your own, you need someone to hang with, like, you can come hang with us. Airsoft is way better with friends. But I'm pretty sure it was mostly Instagram that you guys had found me from. And I think that's a really cool metric to know. But I've been on Instagram since 2014, and a lot of the people that followed me in 2014 still follow me now. So I want to thank you guys for sticking with me for such a long time, because it has been, it's been over a decade now, and I really enjoy what I do, and I love connecting with you lot. I love it so fucking much. I did take a break recently from the internet, just because the internet was getting a bit heavy. Do you know what I mean? I'll talk about that in the next one. But it was so lovely of everybody to check in and chat, and I've had a lovely time reconnecting with my community. It's been awesome. So I think I should probably wrap this up now, because I've just looked at the timer and it says I've been going for 32 minutes. 32 minutes of me chatting bare shit. But that is what you can expect from this podcast. If you want to put something on, if you want some background noise for when you just, clean your house or something, and you want to listen to my dulcet tones, feel free. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening. I really hope you've enjoyed it. If you do, give it a like, thumbs up, comment, and I will see you in the next one.